I know what you're thinking. You don't just love true crime. You also love witchcraft, vampire cults, catfishing, and lunatics in courtrooms. Where's the video for you? Well, here it is. This is the story that has it all. The murder of Sydney Loofe. Sydney was born in 1993 in Nebraska. She was a tomboy growing up and she loved to hike and fish. She was known in her community as an animal lover and as a person who cared more about looking after others than herself. After high school, Sydney took a job at a home improvement store, Menards. She also began looking for love. She created a profile on Tinder and waded into the world of online dating. Sydney was looking for a woman to date, and too much of the time she would match with women who turned out to be married or in a committed relationship to men. And Sydney, rather than being offered love or meaningful connection, was offered threesomes. Needless to say, it was extremely frustrating, but she continued to look for a romantic connection. But on November 11th, 2017, Sydney finally thought she had found someone. She matched with a 25-year-old brunette named Aubrey, and the two began to chat about their mutual likes and dislikes. After a few days of talking, the two made a plan to meet up in real life. Wary because of her past experiences, Sydney checked with Aubrey that this wouldn't be another sleazy setup. She asked, "Just going to be me and you, right?" Aubrey replied, "Yes, of course, lol." On November 14th, 2017, Sydney and Aubrey met up. They had made plans to go to dinner, but they ended up just driving around in Aubrey's car, talking. When Aubrey dropped her off at the end of the night, Sydney was on cloud 9. She sent a text to her friend Tara Garrick, which read, "Just got done chilling with this super cute girl. I hope she doesn't have a boyfriend." Before going to bed, Sydney got a message from Aubrey that read, "Good night, gorgeous." The next day, Sydney worked the afternoon shift at Menards before getting ready for a second date with Aubrey. She didn't seem to take note of this man who entered the store 4 minutes after her and made some purchases. That evening, Sydney got dressed up and ready for her date. She sent this photo to her mother and a few friends. It was the last time any of them would ever hear from her. The next morning, November 16th, Sydney was expected for her morning shift at Menards. She didn't show up, which raised serious flags for her coworkers. Sydney was known as a very conscientious and responsible person. If she wasn't showing up for work, it meant something was wrong. Sydney's friend Tara Garrick, also a coworker at Menards, contacted Sydney's mother with her concerns. Sydney's family immediately contacted the police and requested a welfare check at Sydney's apartment. When police arrived, they found her car in the driveway and her lights on. Inside the apartment were Sydney's eyeglasses, which she needed at night when she took her contact lenses out. She never stayed away from home without them. Worse, Sydney's cat Mimsy had an empty food and water bowl. Everyone knew that animal lover Sydney would never have purposely left her cat like that. Sydney Loofe was officially declared missing. Over 27,000 people joined to Find Sydney Loofe Facebook page, and flyers were distributed to spread the word and show people what Sydney looked like. Sydney's friend, Brooklyn McChrystal, came up with a genius idea to help the investigation. Knowing that Sydney had been on a Tinder date the night she went missing, Brooklyn made a fake Tinder profile, set her preference to women, and began swiping. The only thing that Brooklyn knew was that Sydney's date was named Aubrey and that she had been about 32 miles from Sydney when the two connected. Brooklyn's bait worked. She connected with Aubrey on Tinder, and after some chatting, Brooklyn managed to get a phone number for Aubrey. When she contacted police with this information, they traced the number. But it didn't lead to anyone named Aubrey. It led to a 23-year-old resident of Wilbur, Nebraska named Bailey Boswell. Bailey's apartment building in Wilbur also happened to be the last place that Sydney's cell phone had pinged the night of her disappearance. When police showed up at the Wilbur apartment, they found Bailey Boswell and her 51-year-old boyfriend, Aubrey Trail. When police asked Bailey and Aubrey's landlord about the couple, they were told that the pair were quiet and always paid their rent on time. Anything unusual happened in the apartment recently? The police asked. Why, yes, the landlord answered. On November 16th, the day of Sydney's final date, there had been an overwhelming smell of bleach coming from Bailey and Aubrey's apartment. The next day, police returned with a search warrant. When they entered the apartment, they were immediately hit with the smell of bleach. There was no sign of Sydney, and Bailey and Aubrey were gone. Bailey and Aubrey were announced as persons of interest in the case of Sydney Loofe, and their faces were plastered across the country. Bizarrely, the couple responded by posting a video to the Find Sydney Loofe Facebook page.
But we've spent the last few days watching ourselves being slammed and crucified in the newspapers and the news and everything else, so we thought it was time we had our say. We're not trying to defend anything. We're not trying to make you believe anything. We just feel we should get to say our side since everyone else gets to say theirs.
Aubrey spends about 6 minutes telling his audience that the media is too biased to be giving you the correct facts. Then Bailey describes what happened on the night Sydney disappeared.
I met her on a Tuesday. We drove around Lincoln, smoked weed, had a great time. We hit it off. I dropped her off at home, picked her up the next night at her house. We drove around, smoked weed again, made our way to my house where we smoked wax and shatter, and I gave her a 1/4 ounce of some really good weed. I went to take her home, and she asked me to drop her off at a friend's house, so I did so. I really don't even know what else to say. I've been seeing all this stuff on the news presses and the magazines and the news, and I guess I just want the family to know that I'm truly sorry and I didn't have anything to do with this, and I hope that Sydney is found very soon. She is a sweet, amazing girl.
In a world convinced that the news media is evil and that only individuals online speak the truth, it's actually pretty smart of them to promote their side of the story this way. Though it might have helped if they didn't look like they were about to go rob Kevin's house at Christmas time. The video you just saw goes on for a total of 9 minutes. That night, another video was posted, mostly reiterating the same ideas, also around 9 minutes in length. Because the second video was posted around midnight, police deduced that wherever Bailey and Aubrey were was probably where they would be for the rest of the night. Working with Facebook, they tracked the IP address where the video had originated. Investigators were led to the Windmill Inn located in Branson, Missouri. There was no physical evidence linking Aubrey and Bailey to Sydney's missing persons case, but the two were arrested on previous outstanding warrants. Meanwhile, in Nebraska, more than 50 police officers, members of the FBI, and hundreds of volunteers searched for Sydney, hoping to find her alive. On December 4th, 2017, police found something in Edgar, Nebraska, a small town about an hour west of Aubrey and Bailey's apartment. In a deserted, marshy area, they found a black garbage bag. Inside was a pair of human arms. The arms had Sydney's tattoos on them, including this heartbreaking one. The rest of Sydney's body was discovered strewn about the marsh. She had been cut into 14 pieces. An autopsy revealed that the cause of death was likely strangulation and that she was almost certainly caught off guard and killed quickly. Much more disturbing is the fact that many of Sydney's organs, including her tongue and heart, were missing. Police turned their attention to Bailey and Aubrey. The couple had met when Bailey was 22 and Aubrey was 50 and started a crime spree that included forgery, fraud, and outright theft. The weirdest part was that they had met many women on Tinder before Sydney. They told these women that Aubrey was a vampire with the ability to fly, while Bailey was a queen witch who could help them unlock their hidden powers. 3 of these women, who remain anonymous, testified at Aubrey's trial. They said that Aubrey and Bailey often talked about wanting to murder a woman and tried to convince them to take part in a ritual killing. Aubrey offered to pay the women's rent and bills in exchange for their help in scams, as well as for services as sex slaves. The women were expected to be naked around the house when they were with Aubrey and Bailey. They had to call them Daddy and Mommy, and one of the women was given a pink collar to wear. All of the women were told that the only way to become witches and unlock their powers was to kill someone and take their last breath. The grooming worked enough that at least one of the women truly believed that Bailey was magic and could read her mind. Also, quick PSA, we know that people who sexually groom and take advantage of others usually target those who are desperate, have undergone trauma, or who are otherwise vulnerable. If you're ever in a situation where someone tells you he's a vampire king who can fly, we recommend leading him to the top of a tall building and asking him to prove it. Luckily, all the women who testified came to the realization that the situation was dangerous, and they left Bailey and Aubrey's vampire witch cult. But that didn't stop Aubrey and Bailey from seeking new victims on Tinder. On the afternoon of November 16th, while Sydney had been at work, Aubrey and Bailey were caught on surveillance cameras buying a hacksaw, plastic drop cloths, and saw blades at their local Home Depot. Then, they went to their local antique store to purchase a meat grinder and a folding saw. Afterwards, they drove to the Menards where Sydney was working. Aubrey walked into the store to check out their victim. Sydney hadn't met Aubrey at that point. Remember, her biggest fear while dating was finding out that her potential partners had boyfriends. In June of 2018, Bailey Boswell and Aubrey Train were charged with the murder of Sydney Loofe. 1 year later, Aubrey's trial began.
How do you plead?
Not guilty to first-degree murder.
And about count 2?
I'm not guilty to disposing of human skeletal remains in Saline County.
All right, very good, sir.
Aubrey pled not guilty, claiming that he didn't deliberately kill Sydney. Her death was an accident that occurred during rough consensual sex. Obviously, this was a very different statement than the one he had posted on Facebook. Aubrey now said that Sydney took money in exchange for being part of a threesome and that he accidentally strangled her during their encounter. Given Sydney's frustration and annoyance whenever someone approached her about a three-way, this story seems unlikely. Also, the tools to murder and dismember Sydney were bought when she was still alive, so that's a pretty wacky coincidence. During the trial, an FBI agent testified that Aubrey Train had whispered in his ear during an interrogation, "Witches kill, a life for a life, and they gain more power when they kill." The trial took a dramatic turn when Aubrey, during witness testimony, called out,
Please be seated.
Bailey is innocent and I curse you all.
Stop recording.
The reason that everybody is rushing over to Aubrey during this video is that he had pulled out a razor blade and slashed his own throat 3 times. Aubrey did not die in court that day. He was rushed to the hospital and returned later with deep scars on his throat. He had missed a substantial amount of his own trial. It took a jury only 3 hours of deliberation before finding Aubrey Trail guilty of the murder of Sydney Loofe. He is currently on death row. Bailey Boswell was also found guilty, and on November 8, 2021, she was sentenced to life in prison. At the time of this video, the dust has barely settled on Boswell's sentencing. Sydney Loofe's family is left to grieve the loss of their beloved daughter, who is remembered to this day as a kind-hearted animal lover, a hard worker, and a good friend. Thanks for watching Beyond Crime. If you'd like to support more true crime content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below.